Thank you for joining us today as we work through this tutorial on how to use Google Docs. Google Docs is really pretty similar to Word, so if you are pretty familiar with Word, it really shouldn't be a big transition to figure out Google Docs. So let's just get started. In my email, I asked you to bring some sort of a Word document. My example that I left in your email was to bring a list of groups of students. So for example, in my classroom, I would group my students based on reading groups. So I'm going to move into my Word document, and I'm going to show you first of all how to move from a Word document into Google Docs. So I have created this with my reading groups, and I just showed what group level they were or what group number they were, and then I had each of the students listed. So it's really a pretty simple basic doc. It's probably something I would use throughout the year, and something that I would probably be changing throughout the year as my students change with their reading levels. So to start, I'm going to take my document from Word, and I'm going to highlight all of it, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go back down to my Google document, and I can do this a couple of different ways. I can right click again and paste. I could go up to File, oh, not File, excuse me. I could do Control V and paste. So you're just simply cutting, copying, and pasting. And it's taking just a second. And paste it. So there is my basic document. Now we can tell that there's a little bit of formatting issues that we have to deal with here, like move these guys back in line. And I noticed that when this one pasted, it all became bold, which was not in my original document. So what I might want to do, just so that the group numbers appear a little bit better, I might want to make those not bolded. And you can tell that this toolbar up here is very, very similar to Microsoft Word. So I have all the basic functions of bold, italics, and underline. I could change the text color. Here I could change the font size. I can change the different kind of font, the different positioning of the fonts, that kind of thing. But right now I'm kind of satisfied with what it looks like. I just want to change it so that not everything is bold. So I'm going to unbold some of those things. Some of the times when you have to go from Word into Google Docs, you have to just fix a few of the formatting things. Sometimes if you have a different font, it might not show up the same as in Google Docs as it would in Microsoft Word, so you might have to be aware of that as well. The next thing I want to do before I move on any farther is I want to name this. So I'm going to go up to this where it says Untitled Document, and it says Rename. I'm just going to click it. Now this is going to be pretty much the same in Google Drive for almost any of your things, whether you're doing a spreadsheet or a presentation or a document. You're just going to click it to name it. So this one I'm just going to name Reading Groups. Oops. And if you have a different kind of document, if you're grouping them differently, if you're doing a science groups or things like that, you could name it whatever you're naming it, but mine will be named Reading Groups. So I'll name mine, and you can go ahead and name yours at the same time. And when you're done, just push OK. Now, because this is a pretty simple kind of document, there's not a lot of things I'm going to do with it. There was one thing I wanted to do. I know that when you learn about the spreadsheets, you're going to learn how to change the different colors according to the different levels and how well they performed. So what I'm going to do is actually in my groups, just to kind of help me see, I'm going to take and highlight. It means I just clicked and dragged and I highlighted group 1. And if I right click, nope, that's not what I'm going to do either, sorry. I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to change the font color. So I'm going to click that, and this one is an above level group, so I'm going to highlight them and make it green. And then again, Group 2 is highlighted, and that one is above level, so I'm going to also make that green. And then groups 3 and 4, they're kind of an on level, slightly below group, so I'm going to make those yellow. And then groups 5 and 6 are those students that really are kind of mostly below level, so I'm going to make those ones red. Just so when I look at them really quickly, I can see that. Another thing I could do is I could go next to each student and put their level that they're at, but this would just show me the groups. I have 6 groups and about where they are and what kinds of things I need to work with them on that. Another thing, if we really want to spice up this document a little bit more, we can insert, and I could insert an image. Now when you insert an image, it either says you can upload it, so if you already have it on your computer, you upload it. You could take a snapshot if you have something on your computer already or on the screen that you could use. If you know the URL. If you have albums, you can save those in the Google Drive or search things. But today we're just going to upload them because I already have a picture that I want to use. So I click the upload, and then I'm going to click choose an image to upload. And then it'll pop up the things that are already on my computer. And luckily it already popped up to where I need it to be. So I was just going to click this one of this little girl reading a book. So I click that, and then I'm going to push open, and then you can see that it's uploading. I have to wait for it to upload, and then all of a sudden it's in my document. And if you're used to Microsoft Word, you're probably used to images coming from the internet being a little bit bigger than what you really want them to be. So I will click it, and I'm going to have to resize it. And how I resize that is I'm going to click on that square, and I am going to just drag it and make it smaller. And you can see that it got much smaller. You can also see that it's kind of shifting some of the words. So what I want to do is I want to do a text wrap, or the text. And I would change the margins, and I've had the most luck with 1 1/16 inch margins. And if you want it different, you can change that. But then what that's going to do is it's also going to allow me to drag it to where I want. I want this cute little image up near the top, right near the title. And you have to play around with it to get it to be the right size and right where you want it to be. You might have to change, maybe if you enter this down a little bit, it'll go back down, and move it a little bit more and play around with that. But that's something that you can play around with on your document. I just wanted to show you how to insert a picture if you wanted a document with pictures. And now, what in the world would I possibly do with a list like this? Now, I told you that I personally would use this kind of list if my students are changing levels, and I would be constantly updating it. It would be something that would be saved in my Google Drive, and I wouldn't have to be recreating something every time. What I also would be able to do is share this. And we'll talk about sharing in just a second. But I could share this with my other team members. And the reason why I would do that is because sometimes we use or share kids for reading interventions, so it might be nice for them to know, are they an above level group, are they at level, or below level, or if I put their actual levels, if they're getting one of my students, they'll automatically know where they would be at. So I can take and share this. So let's say that I had this all set up and everything, and I feel like I'm rushing through this, but I want to give you time to be able to play around and ask questions also. So if I have this document, I'm going to share it. And what I would do is just push this share. And what you want to do is you're going to type in an email address of somebody that you want to share. So maybe I have a different email. I'm just going to type in that other email. Or if it's somebody already in your district, you might already have their email also. The thing that's important before you send this, do you want them to be able to edit it? If you do, you want to have a can edit. If you only want them to be able to make comments and not actually edit, you might want to click can comment. Or if it's something that you have already set, you don't want anybody to change, you might want to do just can view it. But since I'm doing this with my colleagues, I probably will click I can edit. So I would click that, and then I would push send. and it says shared with one person. So I'll be able to look in my Google Drive and I can look at the things that I've shared with people and see who I shared it with and whatnot. I wanted to show you another Google Doc that I have created already and show you something else that I could do with it. So this is something basic that maybe I would create from Word and put into Google Docs. But let's say that I created this one. Now I've already named this one. This one is called Reading Progress Chart. And what I would do with this is have the students be able to track their own reading. So I've made it a chart and I have already added an image. This part with the blank, if I print it out, the student would write their own name. If I have it kept in Google Drive, I would just have them type their name and get rid of the line. So the chart here has our different levels that we would do. These would be an example of a first grade class. And then the chart says this is where they were at the beginning of first grade, end of first quarter, second, third, and fourth, and so on. What I would have them do in this, let's say I had a student who came into first grade at a level 1. So I would highlight those first 2 cells for the beginning of first grade. I'm going to right click. And when I do that, I'm going to go to Table Properties. And Table Properties, basically what I'm trying to do here is make a graph. So what I want to do is have the cell background. I'm not going to put in any numbers or anything. I just want to be able to make a graph and have colors. So maybe for this one, the first, at the beginning, I'm going to have it be blue. So if I click blue and OK, you can tell that those 2 cells change blue. Now let's say that at the end of the first quarter, the student did okay and they had some progress and they made it up to a 6. So I'm going to highlight up to 6, right click, go to Table Properties, and my background color, this is kind of up to you, but maybe I would have this be pink, something that would be distinguishable between that and the first color. So I click that and you can see that I could make a graph and so on. So at the end of every quarter, I would do that. And the students would be able to keep track of their own reading progress. And you could probably adapt this if you do it for spelling tests, if you do it for just regular tests, chapter tests, things like that. Change these to percentages, things like that. The other thing that you can do with Google Docs is that we can start in Google Docs and then save it as a Word document. Let me show you that real quick. So far, this is what I have, and I want to save it as a Word document, so I'm going to go to File. And then what I do is I download as, and it will give you a list of things. The first one's a Microsoft Word. Another one is an open document, a PDF, things like that, a web page. For this one, I want to do a Microsoft Word. So I'll click that, and then you'll wait and see, and you can see it downloaded here at the bottom. So I'll click that too, and as I click that, it's going to open up another Word document. And if I enable some editing, you can see that what once was a doc on the drive is now a Microsoft Word document. And you can see again, it might need a little bit of editing to make sure that the formats fit and all that. And I could do that by making my picture a little smaller and moving things up or changing fonts and that kind of stuff, and it'll start to move it. So I could play around there as well. So if I go back to that one, and then I can decide, this one I haven't shared with anyone, but I could do that as well later on. So I'm not going to make another document, but I wanted to talk about some of the other things that are useful to use for Google Docs. One thing that you could do is you could have your student set up in Google Docs and they could write a paper, or they could make some sort of a project and share that with you. And then you wouldn't have anything to print off. You would have everything saved in the cloud, and you could be grading at home or wherever you're at. And then there are other teachers who have created quizzes online using Google Docs and things like that. But for today, I just wanted to show you some of those basics and to show you that Google Docs really is not that scary. Google Docs is really very similar to Microsoft Word. And it just takes a little bit of playing around with it, and you really can get a good feel of it. So now we're going to take a moment and we're going to take some questions and let you play around with this and get familiar with it before we move on to the next thing.